Brexit negotiations are at a deadlock at the moment, and apart from fishing, which represents about the same size as the lawnmower industry in the UK, the real sticking point is the issue of state aid. So what is state aid and why is it a problem? The EU currently has legislation that prohibits member states from providing state aid to parts of their economy. These are sometimes called subsidies. Why? Because providing this type of assistance is seen as distorting competition within the European internal market. Now, it hasn't been without its problems. Recent controversies about Ireland's relationship with Apple is one. However, member states can seek authorization from the European Commission if they meet the right conditions and follow the set of rules laid out. The whole idea behind it is to prevent private or semi-private companies from gaining an unfair competitive advantage via government support. So how does this affect Brexit, you're probably asking? Well, it could have a significant impact on state aid in the UK. If in the event of a no-deal Brexit, Britain would only be bound by WTO rules on state aid. So the UK government might want to take advantage of the reduced constraints on granting subsidies under such rules. There is also the fear that due to the UK leaving the single market after Brexit, direct foreign investment would decline. The European Council has said on numerous occasions that any future agreement with the UK must, and I quote, ensure a level playing field, notable in terms of competition and state aid. So which unelected European bureaucrat is responsible for this pesky check and balance on state aid? Well, it was the UK itself that was part of the primary push for state aid rules at the beginning of the last decade. Whilst the UK was a member, it didn't provide its companies with a great deal of state aid. It was afraid of other EU members providing unfair support to their companies and demanded that as a member of the EU, state aid rules were applied and enforced. History isn't without a sense of irony, it seems. So there are two existing models for state aid control under trade agreements the EU has. The first is a supranational system. Here the European Economic Area system mirrors that of the EU state system, with the surveillance authority having the same role as the European Commission. Now, Boris Johnson's government has said that it isn't interested in joining the European Economic Area, so any supranational UK-EU mechanism could be established. It's also possible that the European Economic Area system could be in a sense borrowed for the purposes of state aid. The other is the domestic system. The EU has been willing to accommodate a domestic system instead. A recent example is the Ukraine-EU Association Agreement. Now, under this agreement, Ukraine is requested to implement a domestic system of state aid control with an operational independent authority. So the domestic system in Ukraine must apply the spirit of EU law as interpreted by the Court of Justice of the European Union, along with secondary EU legislation and guidance. The problem in the media is that they state that the EU is against the UK providing state aid. This is wrong. They are against the UK providing state aid without oversight. Brexiteers in and outside government have played up the idea that the UK is basically a state that is free to operate beyond the reach of international law and agreements, but at the same time wants to do a deal with the EU. This fundamentally comes down to trust. The members of Boris Johnson's party have promoted the idea of tearing up international agreements, while Boris Johnson wants the EU to trust him. Would you? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee. So why not check it out?